Well, today I'm gonna be taking a look at the biggest coaster copycat in the entire industry. And the one roller coaster manufacturer I'm talking about right here is the so-called Jinma Rides. And this roller coaster manufacturer is actually huge over in Asia because they have built a total of 402 roller coasters. Jinma Rides is known for copying other roller coaster manufacturers' coaster models. Today I'm gonna determine myself if Jinma Rides really is a roller coaster copycat. And the only way is to go through all of their different roller coaster models. So now let's get into the video. Well, the first coaster model we're going to be taking a look at is the so-called tilting coaster. Well, you can clearly see this is Jinma Rides' take on the tilt coaster that Vekoma originally created. And well, you can argue that many other roller coaster enthusiasts has already created smaller scale roller coasters with tilt tracks, but this is not the same. Well, even though you can see this is a tilt roller coaster, you can see the track is not the same. Jinma Rides has their own roller coaster track design. And I must be really honest here, based on this off-ride footage, this roller coaster does really look like the best because the pacing is quite slow. It's also awesome to see that Jinma Rides officially states their roller coaster stats on their webpage. And this tilt coaster is only 40 meters tall, and that is around 131 feet. The maximum speed on this tilt coaster is 89 kilometers per hour, and that's approximately around 55 miles per hour. And this roller coaster also includes two different coaster trains with 24 passengers per train. Now the next roller coaster model we're going to take a look at is the so-called vertical roller coaster. And this is where it's getting quite interesting because this really looks like a straight out copy of the B&M dive coaster. I really think if I showcase this video, everyone would have thought that this is a B&M dive coaster, but no. And now the only difference I can see between the B&M dive coaster and the so-called vertical coaster by Jinma Rides is actually that Jinma Rides coaster train has 4 rows, but wow, apart from that, this just looks like a B&M dive coaster. And I've really seen many roller coaster manufacturers getting sued over some roller coaster designs or models, but not Jinma Rides, so I don't really know what's going on right there. But at least in terms of layout, Jinma Rides looks quite different because after a wacky Immelman inversion, you have a bank turn into the next drop. Well, I already take that back because that's just like Seacrest Busch Gardens Tampa. So in terms of copycats, this might be the biggest one yet. Now let's take a look at the flying coaster made by Jinma Rides. But the first thing I can already see about this roller coaster model is of course that it looks like the flying coaster made by B&M. But in terms of loading the riders onto the train, it looks like the old Vekoma flying coaster. And I mean, just look at this. After the chain lift and then you turn around a bit, you have the so-called pretzel loop element, but this is just Jinma Rides' take on the pretzel loop. But apart from that pretzel loop, this roller coaster layout doesn't really look that fun, to be honest. I know many of the B&M flying roller coasters are quite floaty, but this one just looks very slow. It's also cool to see the theming around this very slow flying roller coaster because that adds to the experience a bit. It looks like the riders can experience a great near-miss roller coaster going through this mountain. But yet again, I'm gonna say this is a complete copy of the B&M flying coaster. You have the pretzel loop, you have the train design, and then you have the Vekoma Flying Dutchman loadout station. Or I don't know what to call it, you know what I mean. Now coming in as the next coaster model, we're going to talk about the Snow Mountain Mine Coaster. And well, this is Jinma Rides' take on the so-called multi-dimensional roller coaster created by Intamin. And well, you can already see based on the coaster trains of this model that Jinma Rides has taken a lot of inspiration from Intamin. This coaster model seems to have the same square looking coaster trains, but overall I don't really think this is a copy of the Intamin multi-dimensional coaster. This is where Jinma Rides has chosen to create these longer roller coaster trains where you have 3 different square looking carts. This coaster also seems to be heavily themed and features some dark ride scenes. This coaster also seems to feature a very special track element. You can see this special track element can actually move to every side, creating a fun experience for the riders. And yes, this roller coaster also features a backward section, switch track, forward section, and so on. But for me, this so-called Snow Mountain Mine Coaster doesn't look like a complete copy of any other coaster model, so this one is getting approved by me. Now the next coaster model we're going to check out is the so-called LSM Launch Spinning Coaster. And well, to be honest, this really looks like an awesome spinning roller coaster. Now we need to take a close look at these roller coaster trains because I think this looks like the Gerstlauer spinning coaster. This coaster model starts out with an awesome looking swing launch section with a lot of special effects. And well, apart from these special track elements, you can clearly see that this looks like a Gerstlauer spinning coaster. And in terms of overall roller coaster layout, this one looks quite fun because it features a very lengthy and drawn out helix. After the awesome LSM launch through the tunnel and this double helix, the roller coaster layout seems to die out a bit. It doesn't seem like this spinning coaster offers that much spinning in my opinion. And apart from the copied train design, you can see that Jinma Rides has actually put 2 carts together. Combined with the special track elements, this coaster design is approved by me. Now the next roller coaster model we need to take a look at is the so-called LSM coaster. And well, you can already see the track design for this roller coaster looks like the B&M Surf coaster. And you can't really criticize that because that's just how Jinma Jinma Rides coaster track design looks. It really seems like Jinma Rides has taken a lot of inspiration from the B&M coasters, and these coaster trains really look like the ones you can find on Penguin Trek. I really like that this roller coaster layout really focuses on the inversions in the start. This LSM launch take the riders up to 98 km per hour, and that's around 61 miles per hour. And that first hang time filled Immelman inversion really looks awesome, but the last inversion and the rest of the roller coaster layout really looks like Pipeline the Surf coaster at SeaWorld Orlando. And to be honest, this LSM coaster just looks like a Pipeline the Surf coaster with sit-down trains. So that's why I'm gonna give this LSM coaster the Copycat stamp. Now coming in as the next coaster model, we got the so-called suspended coaster. And while this may look like a family suspended coaster created by Vekoma, but if you ask Jinma Rides, that is not the case. In terms of height, this roller coaster only stands a few meters / a few feet higher than the family suspended coasters. But to be honest, just look at the front cart for this coaster, that just looks awesome with the dragon. This coaster starts out with a twisted first drop, just like the Vekoma SLCs, and then the coaster goes into a very hang time fill. I don't know, is that the 0G roll or a corkscrew inversion? I don't really know. But after a decently forceful overbank, you have yet another inversion, and it looks like an inline twist or hardline roll. And now you might think that this is the only suspended coaster by Jinma Rides, but no. This coaster manufacturer has a bigger version of the suspended coaster model, and what is it called? It is called the Amazing Suspended Coaster. And this is where you can see the first creations of this roller coaster model is actually just a complete copy of an SLC coaster with a custom layout. But on the Amazing Suspended Coaster model, they have also switched to the newer Vekoma design, and when I say Vekoma, you know what I mean, the Jinma Rides copy design. It's overall just so funny to see how many different track designs this manufacturer has for their roller coasters. This coaster model starts out with yet another SLC looking twisted first drop, and then into a huge vertical loop, a cobra roll, and then an awesome 0G roll. But then unfortunately, before the brake run, this roller coaster goes through a very drawn out bank turn / helix. And while these two suspended coaster models are getting the Copycat stamp, it's just so funny to see that Jinma Rides also changed the roller coaster track design when Vekoma did it. But overall, I don't really know where the boundaries are in terms of getting inspired / copying designs. And now we've already heard about the LSM spinning coaster, but not the super spinning coaster. And as we've seen on many other roller coaster models, Jinma Rides really likes to include these over-the-shoulder restraints by B&M, and this is where the super spinning coaster is no exception. But if you really take a look at the train design, apart from the over-the-shoulder restraints, it really looks like a spinning coaster made by Intamin. And yes, I'm talking about Tornado, located at Bakken in Denmark. But when I look at this roller coaster layout, it looks pretty awesome based on all the helixes, drops, and twists and turns. But I don't really see the point in calling this a super spinning coaster, because I can't really see any spinning on this ride, and I can't even see if this roller coaster train barely reaches a whole rotation during the whole ride layout. But the coaster goes through an awesome looking barrel roll inversion with a lot of hang time in the end. It's really a great idea by Jinma Rides to include an inversion on this roller coaster. Just think about how successful these Mach Rides extreme spinning coasters already are with these inversions. And now we've finally gone through the whole video, and I can clearly see why people call this the Copycat coaster manufacturer. Many of these roller coaster models are just complete copies of former successful roller coasters, but many of these also look like inspired designs. But now let me know in the comments if you think Jinma Rides is one of the biggest copycat coaster manufacturers in the world. And if you really like roller coaster videos like these, please consider subscribing to the channel, that would be awesome. And now at the end of the day, I'm always gonna say bye bye.